The Rangers announced a new TV deal. Not a streaming deal, but a TV deal that's going to make it so much easier to watch their games and probably bring them a lot of money this year. But the timing was kind of embarrassing about them crying poor. Talk about why that is. All that and more on Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and best daily Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, we're getting into the Rangers' new TV deal, what it means for the team, Kirby Yates' deal being announced, and showing that the Rangers absolutely could have done that, and a little bit more. But before we get into all of that, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app and head to FanDuel.com to get started. Now, the Rangers yesterday announced their new TV deal. A few days before that, they announced the Rangers Sports Network, a new regional sports network, RSN, Rangers Sport Network. Kind of interesting that the RSN is literally named RSN. But just announcing the channel wasn't enough for me to do an episode on, because it was just like, okay, they have a channel and maybe they'll be on some different TV provider. But now we have a little bit more information about exactly what it's going to look like, where you can actually watch these Rangers games. If you were one of those more old school fans who said, I'm not spending $100 to go do some streaming and deal with all of that nonsense, I'm just going to, watch cable like I've always watched. Well, I told you at the time that, the Rangers were definitely working on that. And this was one of the options that the Rangers were afforded when they decided to leave Bally Sports Southwest / Diamond Sports / formerly Fox Sports, now FanDuel Sports. It's all a whole thing. But now the Rangers are in control of their own destiny. They had basically, it felt like 3 or 4 different options of ways to go about it. There was the easy route, the route of least resistance. Just let Major League Baseball do all their broadcasts. Just do it through MLB TV. Now that would be the easiest, the least cost to them, but also the least financially beneficial. It would not allow them to do as much with the revenue and all of that good stuff that allegedly makes the Rangers money. No, not allegedly, absolutely makes the Rangers a lot of money. They also had a choice to go just the streaming route, like the Stars, who partnered with Victory Plus. I wasn't sure if it would be Victory Plus specifically. It ended up being that as their streaming partner to just kind of get this into fans' homes, get this into more different people's living rooms, on their phones, on their iPads, on whatever devices they could have. And that was the first route that the Rangers went. But unlike the Stars on Victory Plus, the Rangers will not be free. They will charge $100 for a season pass if you are just streaming. But with this new announcement of the TV deal, you'll be able to plug in your network provider. So if you do have one of these cable packages, and the deals so far with cable and satellite have been with Spectrum, DirecTV, and AT&T Uverse, or DirecTV Stream, and AT&T Uverse so far. Not any deals announced with YouTube TV or Hulu TV or Fubo or any of these other different TV providers. I think those are honestly the exact same amount of TV providers that had the now FanDuel Sports Network. So not exactly a massive improvement there, but they also announced there will be 15 games broadcast locally live for free on the CW, Channel 9, locally here in DFW. But they have networks that extend all the way from, I believe, El Paso all the way to West Monroe, Louisiana. So the Rangers TV range is massive. It's the entire state of Texas. It's actually parts of 5 different states. I believe it's the entirety of Oklahoma, a big chunk of Louisiana, a big chunk of Arkansas, and a medium-sized chunk of New Mexico. So 5 different states. But if you have one of these, Spectrum, DirecTV Stream, AT&T Uverse, and you want to stream Rangers games from wherever you are locally, then you can do that if you plug in your TV provider information. So you don't have to pay an extra $100 if you already have all of these. But the 15 games free broadcast locally, that is something the Rangers have not done in quite some time. They used to have, quite a few games early on in the season and usually late on in the season on TXA 21 back when there were, a massive overlap in September, October sometimes, and also a little bit in April when Bally would have 3 different games locally here in DFW, a Stars game, a Mavs game, and a Rangers game all at the same time. Usually the Rangers would end up on TXA 21, which would be a free local broadcast. They're doing 15 of those this year, but it will be on Channel 9 if you are in DFW as well. So this is one of the more costly, but I think long-term most beneficial routes the Rangers could have gone, is just making their own TV network. The Rangers own the channel. They made a whole channel, and they have this deal in place with these providers. I think that some other providers will be along the way. I'm sure that they don't want to just be stuck on these 4 different providers. One of the big hangups, a lot of people have YouTube TV. A lot of people have Hulu Live TV and other different cable providers whom I can't really think of off the top of my head. I'm thankfully in a place that has Spectrum, makes life pretty easy. They have these channels, and it makes my life so much easier. This is not a paid promotion for any of that, but it is just nice to have. Even the streaming option alone, for $100 for a full season of Rangers baseball. I know it's frustrating when the Stars are free, and if you have an antenna and you live here locally, then you can just get Mavs games for free. And I've seen a lot of different people complaining about why are the Rangers thinking that they can charge for this? Well, for one, there are a lot more baseball games. There are 162 baseball games in a season versus 82 NHL games and 82 NBA games in a regular season. And also, look at the payrolls for what these 2 different teams, these 3 different leagues kind of run. The Rangers are in the upper echelon, and they're probably going to be around $230, $235 million in payroll this year. The Stars are around $85 million. They're in the top half of the league, maybe even the top 10. The Mavs are a little bit more than that, but not really anywhere near $230 million. And that just kind of shows you people watch baseball games. This is a very, very valuable product. One of the issues with some of the other leagues is just getting that viewership up, getting people, especially in the NBA. It's become a league that's a lot more focused on transactions versus the actual games. But in baseball fans actually watch so many games. They watch a lot of games. They love that there are 162 games. I love that there are 162 games in a regular season. And when the Rangers have an off day, I'm usually watching baseball give somebody playing some other baseball game. And so, it's $150 to watch all the other games out of market, but $100, 6 months worth of baseball games, I think that's honestly a pretty reasonable price. But it's a really bad look for this team to announce this. One of the things that I liked about this, about creating their own regional sports network, which I thought was the route they were going to go, the route that they talked about going, and then it seemed like maybe they wouldn't go that way, as opposed to partnering with a team like Tegna, a company like Tegna that has a bunch of local TV stations. That's what the Mavs did, and maybe what the Stars will end up doing at some point. Not entirely sure. But this route is a little more costly up front. Long term, I think it's the most beneficial for them and their finances to have kind of more control, so they don't have a Bally situation where it just starts running downhill very, very quickly, and their business plan is just to make things annoying for everybody involved. But this, I think, will be a more seamless experience, a better experience, and I'm thinking that it will help the Rangers' finances in the long term. in the short term, there's going to be some upfront costs. I think that goes into a little bit of their decision with this CBT. I'm talking about why that's really embarrassing. And with Kirby Yates' deal being announced, the Rangers not even making an offer. I'm going to tell you why it is just not a great look for a time for the Rangers to be asking $100 from all their fans when they couldn't be bothered to spend how much on Kirby Yates? Talk about all that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, and endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with the FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. They got all kinds of different Super Bowl specials, like right now they've got Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts to combine for 6+ passing and rushing touchdowns at plus 320. They've also got plus 600 for an anytime defensive player for a pick 6. All kinds of different odds there. So download the app, head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. Shout out to the Everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. We're back on Friday talking a little bit about Josh Young and Evan Carter, what to expect from their health, and why they're so important to the Rangers offense bouncing back in 2025. Now, the Rangers had one of the best closers in baseball last year in Kirby Yates, and they made a lot of moves to remake this bullpen. Both he and David Robertson were fantastic last year on one-year deals. The Rangers are probably not bringing Robertson back. They're definitely not bringing Kirby Yates back. But the thought was, once he announced his signing, news broke that he was going to sign with the Dodgers. The thought, there were no financial terms disclosed. And everyone thought, okay, well, this is just the Dodgers, flexing their financial might. They're coming off of a season where they made just an obscene amount of money, not just from winning the World Series, but also from the money that they're getting from Japan, from the money that they're able to get by Shohei Ohtani deferring, 90% of his contract, more than that, actually, and it, counting so little in terms of the CBT because so much of that money is deferred because he's getting so much money in endorsements because he's just the most popular player in the world. And them spending all this money in free agency to go and get a 2-time Cy Young winner, to go and get the best closer on the market, to go and get, not only bringing back Teoscar Hernandez, getting Roki Sasaki, which didn't cost a whole lot of money, also bringing in Michael Conforto for, $17 million. And then they go and sign, for me, the one that really pushed me over the edge of this is annoying. It's not bad for baseball, but it's really frustrating for anyone who's not a fan of the Dodgers or not just a casual MLB fan that wants to see dynasties and things like that. But for me, when they signed Blake Snell, I said, okay, all right, these things happen. Snell wants to go get a bunch of money. Maybe he'll be the only one healthy at the end of at this rotation at the end of the year. We'll see how that goes. When they got Roki Sasaki, I get it. Going somewhere where he will be, not the star, not the guy. A team that has so many resources and does a really great job of helping pitchers get the best out of themselves. Him wanting to go to a place where he can win, be a star, but not the star, not have all the attention. And when you have Shohei Ohtani on your team, you're not going to have, that much more attention. You're really not going to have all that much attention anyway. And, having all those resources, I get it. It's frustrating, but I get it. Signing Tanner Scott, they didn't really need Tanner Scott. And it was like, okay, that's also kind of annoying, but, whatever. Bringing back Teoscar and you're signing Conforto, I thought, okay, fine, sure. That makes sense for all parties involved. But then the Yates deal, I was like, okay, this has just gone too far. This is so absurd. This is so obscene. They must have blown Kirby Yates away with a big ol' offer. Yates coming off of an incredible season after 2.5 years in the injury wilderness. In 2023, he was pretty good for the Braves. I thought the Rangers getting him for $4.5 million was, I think the Rangers probably had the biggest offer on Yates, but I thought, there's a chance this goes south, but there's a chance he's, pretty good. I didn't expect anything near the best season he's ever had, because he's had an incredible season. I mean, look at 2019. Look at how few homers he gave up in a year where the ball was so incredibly juiced that Danny Santana had a, 25, 30 homer season? It was insane, the amount of home runs being hit in that year, and he still had a 120-something ERA. Forgive me for not having it off the top of my head. But I thought, okay, I thought heading into the offseason, Yates is probably going to demand at least a 2-year deal. Maybe he's asking for 3, and that would be, real scary because he's in his late 30s, and he did miss basically 2 full seasons in 2020 and 2021. And heck, he even missed a lot of 2022 as well. So, giving any reliever more than 2 years, I didn't think that he would get that. But coming off the season he had, I thought he would at least get 2 years and $22 million. That was, the deal that Blake Trinan signed with the Dodgers. That was the deal that AJ Minter signed with the Mets. I thought, yeah, his peak is way better than either of those two guys. And he just did that last year. So I thought, okay, the Dodgers probably came in with something crazy in AAV. Maybe they did 2 years and $15 million apiece. That I would get if the Rangers didn't want to do that. But I thought there's no way he's getting a 1-year deal. And he did. Just a 1-year, $13 million guaranteed with bonus incentives up to $1 million. So they could take that all the way up to, $14 million whole dollars if he gets 50 pitches in 55 games in 2025. That's it? That's it? The second best reliever in all of baseball. I know he's old. I know the injury risk. I know that he walks a bunch of guys, and eventually, that's going to kind of regress a little bit. He's probably not going to have a 111 ERA or 117. I forget specifically the number that it was last year. But that's all he got. That's not the Dodgers flexing their financial might. That should be an embarrassment to every single team that needs a closer that didn't do that. The Rangers included. I mean, the Rangers specifically. Chris Young has done a lot of work improving this bullpen. I think that this bullpen, on the whole, is better than last year. I really think so. And it's frustrating. It's easy to look at it and say, well, the Rangers lost Kirby Yates and David Robertson, who were amazing, and they just replaced a bunch of guys who are maybe fine. But you look past Robertson and Yates. I mean, Leclerc had a 4.3 ERA. He pitched better than that. A lot of that was bloated from early on, frustrations, but he still had an ERA north of 4, and he was the third highest used, reliever in the Rangers bullpen last year. You have Jacob Latz, who, did not have great strikeout numbers, had, also not great walk numbers, got, I think, a little lucky with BABIP, and really regressed a lot towards the back half of the season. He was the Rangers, 6th, 7th inning guy. Josh Sborz didn't pitch all that much last year. The Rangers had 23 games of Grant Anderson, who had an ERA north of 8. North of 8. They had 41 innings from Jonathan Hernandez, who had an ERA north of 5. Those are their, 5, 6, guys in the bullpen. Number 5 or 6 in terms of the leverage, rankings. Those guys were getting serious innings. Heck, they had 17 innings from Yuri Rodriguez, who had a near 7 ERA. And Cole Winn, 17 innings and an ERA near 8. There were a lot of guys that were just bad, getting a lot of innings for this Rangers squad. So the bullpen as a whole ranked in the bottom 10 of baseball. Usually, most numbers in terms of ERA and strikeout and things like that, walk rate, things like that, they were in the bottom 5 in baseball. So just adding a bunch of guys that are at least solid is a good way to improve. But everybody kind of knew and still knows that the Rangers would really, really like a closer, a veteran closer. And signing Yates to this deal specifically, there is no such thing as a bad 1-year deal. Unless you sign a guy to a 1-year, $100 million deal, which is never going to happen. That would be clinically insane. But unless you're doing that, there's no such thing as a bad 1-year free agent deal. And to do it for a guy who is coming off of that good a season fits a clear need, basically the last need on this roster. To not do it is just so embarrassing. The Rangers could have made an offer of, say 2 years, $20 million guaranteed. It's way more money than the Dodgers are giving for just this 1 year. If Yates goes out and does this again, I would anticipate him getting at least, 2 years, $30 million total. I mean, he'd have to. He'd have to if he goes out and repeats what he just did last year, or gets anywhere close to it. But not being able to do this, the luxury tax, reset the luxury tax, blah, 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 blah. Would it cost the Rangers $4 million in luxury tax to retain Kirby Yates on this deal specifically? And since the Rangers don't have state income tax, they wouldn't have even had to go to $14 million to match what Yates would actually be taking home from the Dodgers. The fact that there were no other teams that beat this offer, nobody out there that wanted to give this guy, who had been so good for a bunch of years, got hurt, came back, was pretty good, and then so darn good again, they should be so embarrassed. Teams like the Yankees, who could use one more reliever. Teams like the Padres, Padres aren't spending any money on anybody. Teams like the Blue Jays, who apparently have so much money to spend and are trying to give it to anybody. The fact that they couldn't offer him 2 years and yet would offer a 3-year deal to a reliever that multiple different teams passed on after the medical is frankly embarrassing for the Blue Jays and for every other contending team. You're telling me Baltimore couldn't have matched this 1 year, $14 million? Their payroll is like $150 million, and they're trying to contend in the hardest division in baseball. Everyone could use one more reliever, the Rangers especially. And this deal coming out as a 1-year deal right after the Rangers saying, hey, look at all this TV money we're about to rake in. They're talking about how, the Rangers are probably going to get, about what they got last year and have room to get even more. But apparently the competitive balance tax, not a salary cap, even though it functions as a salary cap, is a real hindrance to the Rangers. I'm going to talk about why that is so incredibly frustrating. And even though it's Ray Davis's right to do what he wants, that doesn't mean that he is right. Talk about all that and more right after this. Now, the Rangers missed out on bringing back Kirby Yates. A 1-year, up to $14 million deal is just an embarrassment. It's probably fine. I talked about why it's probably fine on last week's shows, but it's really especially extra embarrassing now that the Rangers have seen that they didn't even make an offer on Kirby Yates. Not even an offer. And this is what he got. This was the price they said, oh no, this is so horrible. What a terrible price. There's no way we could possibly pay this price. When it's about what John Gray's making. And I think that I know that the Rangers absolutely could have done this, and Ray Davis could have done this, but he's chosen to run his team this way. And he talks all about making it like a business, and all these MLB owners who never, ever, 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 ever would open their books, talk about how, I'm just trying to break through. I'm just trying to break even on this, just so I can give the fans the experience. They talk about running this thing like a business. This is not a regular business. This is a community asset. This is something that even though you're called the owner, you couldn't possibly own this. Fans should be the real owners. Fans are the ones that have much more invested emotionally, which, sounds cheesy and lame, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's more of an investment than some rich person spending however many hundreds of millions of dollars. What frustrates me the most is that, okay, you can buy the team and run it this way. That's your prerogative. But acting like he's some broke boy that couldn't possibly afford a couple $1 million in luxury taxes and talking about the luxury tax like it's, $8 billion that he'd have to pay if they go 1 cent over. The owners negotiated the CBT into the collective bargaining agreement. They put this in there so that they could have an excuse to curb wages, to not spend and say, oh, look at this luxury tax. There's no way I can do it. And they think you fans are stupid. They think you don't know what this costs. That you will just believe them at their word when they say, oh, no, we're just trying to run this as a business. I'm not making any money off of this. It's a lie. It's a lie. It is such an obvious lie. that they are making money hand over fist. And, SpotTrack says one thing, FanGraphs says another thing about how close the Rangers are to the luxury tax. I mean, FanGraphs has the Rangers as $6 million away from hitting that $241 million CBT threshold. And, SpotTrack has them with, $18.8 million in tax space. And we don't actually know which one's right, because the owners will never, ever open their books, because they don't want you to know how much money they're making and how much more they could be spending on players, because that's just how things go. And it's just incredibly frustrating. It's incredibly dejecting. And, for the most part, the Rangers will probably be fine without Yates, but just that one more would have been so nice. It was just such a perfect fit. But also, if you want to go on the other side of it, if you want to just blindly trust ownership and things like that, and just, look on the positive side, the Rangers not bringing back Yates, they spent more than what it would have cost to bring Yates back on other different free agents this offseason. They have gotten at least close to that luxury tax, which there was a thought that maybe they'd be even further away. But, spending $25 million a year on Nathan Eovaldi, spending $18.5 million a year on Jock Peterson, spending $5.5 million on their probable closer in Chris Martin. They've at least spent some money. And, I think Chris Young has earned the benefit of the doubt of, working within those restraints to build the best team possible. He did build the first World Series champion team in franchise history. And there have been some other free agents in years past. Well, I guess technically just year past, because last offseason was the first offseason, coming off of a regular season in charge. Chris Young did not elect to re-sign Jordan Montgomery, or I guess just sign Jordan Montgomery to bring him back. And, well, I think Montgomery probably would have been better than he was last year if he had signed at some point in, before January or February, than him signing, a week or two before the season started. But it looked like a smart move on Young's part, investing elsewhere. Now, he could have done a better job investing in some more, depth in this lineup and some more depth in this bullpen, but, not bringing back the guy that everybody was clamoring for turned out to be the right move. Maybe that'll end up being the right move with Yates. Maybe it won't. But I think he's earned the benefit of the doubt. It's still just incredibly frustrating when it's basically the last piece the Rangers have. The only, hole where I think they really could use just that one more. There was such an obvious perfect fit, and acting like there's no way they could afford it is just an embarrassing look, especially after they're asking fans to pay them all that money for this new fancy TV deal that's probably going to make them even more money than they made before. But we are just 2 weeks away as of today from pitchers and catchers reporting, and the Rangers announced some non-roster invitees, including Jesse Chavez, who is going to turn 42 in August. He will be in his age 41 season. He has had several different stints with the Texas Rangers, coming off of a pretty decent year in Atlanta, pretty decent last couple of years. He had his age 40 season last year with Atlanta, only pitched in 46 games, but 63 in the third innings, a 3.13 ERA. The year before that, his age 39 season in 2023. He only pitched in 36 games, under 35 innings, but a 1.56 ERA. I mean, he's had some really good seasons the last few years, but outside of when he was in Chicago, in LA, Anaheim, in 2021 with Atlanta, he had a 2.14 ERA. In 2022, he spent time with 3 different teams, the Cubs, the Angels, and then Atlanta. He was terrible with the Cubs in 3 games. He was really, really bad with the Angels in 11 games. And then he comes back to the Braves, pitches in 46 games with them, and is really darn good again. This is a nice depth option for the Rangers in their pen. He's not going to pitch that many high leverage innings, but still, that's kind of nice. The Rangers also have signed Cody Thomas, who is an outfielder out of Colleyville Heritage. He used to be with the A's. He also spent last year in NPB with Orcs. They've also had some non-roster invitees in David Buchanan, Chad Wallach, also Alan Trejo, who I had on the show, former big leaguer with the Rockies, spent the last 4 or 5 seasons with the Rockies, spent some time in the minor league system of the Dodgers. Last year, a shortstop who's got some pop, has hit at every level in the minor leagues, but just not quite at the same level at the majors. The Rangers see something in there, but they also have quite a few prospects that are non-roster invitees, including now 18-year-old, soon-to-be 19-year-old Sebastian Walcott, their top prospect. And according to Keith Law of The Athletic, the number 2 prospect in all of Major League Baseball. That's the highest of any of these prospect rankings, to have Bam Bam Sebastian Walcott as the number 2 prospect in all of baseball, behind only pretty much universally number 1 prospect in baseball, Roman Anthony, outfield prospect of the Boston Red Sox. It's a hugely high bar for Sebastian Walcott, but I think he is definitely deserving of that honor. Other prospects the Rangers are bringing to camp is Malcolm Moore, their first-round pick from last year. Alejandro Ozuna, who won the Rangers Minor League Player of the Year award. They were also inviting Dane Acker and Skylar Hales, both right-handed pitchers, both now relievers. Cole Drake, who is a starting left-handed pitcher, and Robbie Alstrom, who is more of a reliever in the left-handed pitching variety. Also Cody Freeman, Blaine Krim, Abimelec Ortiz, and Trevor Hauver, part of the Joey Gallo trade, who is still here, still has not quite yet made his Major League debut. And, when I was looking at this list, I was thinking, that's a little surprising that, some of these other prospects didn't get a call up, an invite to Rangers Major League Camp. And then I realized, they're on the 40-man roster, so they're already coming. Guys like Mark Church, guys like Jose Corniel, who are going to be in Rangers Big League Camp. We will also see Emiliano Teodo, who was in Rangers Big League Camp last year. I don't know if Teodo is going to break camp with the Rangers. Hales, I think, has a very outside chance to break camp with the Rangers. Hasn't pitched in AAA yet and looked pretty good in AA. As of the last time I saw him last year, I don't think he's big league ready quite yet. But for the rest of these guys, congratulations to them getting their invite to Major League Camp. I'm excited to see what Sebastian Walcott can do. I'm excited to see how much we'll see of Malcolm Moore. Blaine Krim, I think, is just about ready to be a big leaguer. I don't think there's a spot for the Rangers, but if there is some kind of an injury, seeing these guys in big league camp is really exciting. The return of Jesse Chavez is exciting, and this new TV deal is exciting, even if it's not letting the Rangers spend a whole bunch of money at this point. Thank you all so much for listening and subscribing. I'll be back on Friday, but until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.